Welcome to the show, everybody. It's the Farzy Show, presented by my friend Steven Singer Jewelers. Hope you guys had a wonderful, just beautiful rest of your Monday. One of my favorite movies is the critically acclaimed, the many-time Oscar-winning movie Old School. And I am reminded every time of that movie, just throughout my day, just regularly, because that's how my brain works. But if you remember the scene where Will Ferrell is fighting Jeremy Piven because he walks away with the tape, the magical tape, the blackmail tape, whatever. And he's laying on the ground in the middle of that classroom, and Will Ferrell looks up, and I believe it's Luke Wilson, and he looks up and he goes, "I see blue," and he looks glorious. That phrase right there, he looks glorious, right? That phrase right there, it enters my brain every time I see somebody just do something dazzling on a surface of play for a sport. Every single time, without fail. And last night, in this wildly roundabout way of getting to the point, oh my goodness, Joel Embiid, welcome back. You were back, and you looked glorious. Scored 11 of his team's final points. Not too shabby. All 11 points by the Sixers to wind things down were scored by Joel Hans Embiid to wrap up the win against the Atlanta Hawks last night in a game where they were down 16 points at one time. And then at another time, when they fought their way back into the game, decided, hey, now's a good time to go on a 4-minute field goal drought. And we weren't able to get anything through the basket, it felt like. And then they were able to storm their way through that, give the ball to the big man, and the big man was like, I got yous, guys. And you know what he did? He had us, guys. And he was incredible. If you look at the final play-by-play of the game, and sometimes I'll just look at, give it a glance, just see the times of like when things happen officially so that I can, refer back to it in my notes for you guys. But it's just like every time the Sixers did anything, it was like Joel Embiid, Joel Embiid, Joel Embiid, Joel Embiid, rebound Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid, Joel Embiid, Joel Embiid, just taking the game over. And really that's what happened in the fourth quarter in general, but mostly in the final minute of that game, the final 56 seconds to be exact. Joel Embiid backed down Clint Capella, bully ball, as Kate Scott even called it on the broadcast, backed him down, got the shot to go. Next thing you know, the Sixers are only down 1 point. They're down 100-99. They go down the other end. Joel Embiid comes up with a block. They go down the other way. Joel Embiid gets the fadeaway jumper. They go up a point in that scenario. It's now 101-100. Then they go down the other way again, and this is the time Joel Embiid comes up with a block. He gets fouled. And you know what he does? He goes down the other end. He ends up making a foul shot. Sixers end up winning this ballgame 104-100. Not too bad for Joel Embiid's return. There was another process in this game, no pun intended, where Embiid came up with a block the other end. They went down the other way on the offensive end. Tobias Harris hit a three. And I mean, it was the start of something good for the Sixers in that scenario. And I am still just very impressed with what they've been able to do, not just with Joel Embiid coming back, but what they were able to do with the time that Joel Embiid was out. And Tobias Harris deserves a lot of credit in all of this, because Tobias Harris, I mean, I know over the last 4 games previous to last night's win over the Hawks, Tobias Harris has been playing some pretty good basketball. He's been averaging over almost 23 points per game, which is nice to see without Joel Embiid in the lineup there, without Tyrese Maxey in the lineup there, without James Harden in the lineup. You have seen Tobias Harris show you he can still play ball. Still difficult for him to be the 4th man on a roster, but when he's got to be number 2 or number 1, you can still see the fact that he's got those skills. He's got skills. So over that time, he scored just under 23 points per game. Comes back last night, scores 24 points with Joel Embiid back in the lineup. But Tobias Harris helped lead this team through the 4-game absence without Embiid. Embiid comes back. Tobias Harris keeps those numbers up. Embiid adds 30 points. He adds 8 rebounds, a couple of blocks as well to help you out through it. And it shows you that this team can sustain some injuries to their bigger stars because they are deep. They have depth. Daryl Morey in the offseason, a name we haven't mentioned in weeks on this show, but in the offseason did a great job of making sure that this team had depth. I mean, when we look at that starting 5, for instance, We're looking at guys that would be number ones on many other teams. Maxey, obviously. You look at a guy like Harden, of course. You look at a guy like Embiid, no doubt about it. And you look at a guy like Tobias Harris, would be a number one on many other teams in the NBA. And he definitely showed you that over the 4-game stretch. And now the last 5 games. And then the last month, the month of November. And by the way, it's November 29th. So we're almost done with November. You're talking about a guy for the month of November has been averaging just under 20 points per game in Tobias Harris. And you have seen it on the defensive end. He has really been bringing it defensively ever since really that Toronto Raptors series last year in the playoffs. And on the offensive end, especially without having the guys in the lineup that he normally has, you have seen the offensive, you've seen the scoring really step it up for Tobias Harris. It's great to see. Never stop rooting for the guy. I know you talk about the max contract and all that stuff, and you're right to talk about it, because he certainly doesn't belong up there with the other 3 names you talk about in the starting 5 there, and PJ Tucker excluded. But, man, when push came to shove with guys getting hurt, Tobias Harris stepped up, and I wanted to take a second on the show today to acknowledge it. Now, Joel Embiid looking glorious. The man missed 4 games. He didn't miss a month, but he missed 4 games with a left mid-foot sprain, okay? Comes back in last night's game, and it really, for me, looked like in the second quarter, there was no injury whatsoever. It looked like he had been healthy for months, was in shape, came back, and played well. But in that second quarter, he dropped the Euro step on Clint Capella, where he had no idea where he was on the planet. Clint Capella didn't. Joel Embiid knew. Had the Euro step where he crashed down from the three-point line, stepped right around Capella, got the layup. He had a couple of great pump fakes in this game that he was able to use to get layups for himself, to get fouled for some N1 situations as well. Really, I saw Joel Embiid just play a fluid brand of basketball on both ends of the floor. Offensively, he looked great, whether it was that fadeaway, whether it was those pump fakes, whether it was what he always does from the free throw line. He just looked great, and he attacked the basket. Oh, and of course, the bully ball to help pull the Sixers within with 56 seconds left in the game. Not too bad at all from Joel, Hans, and Embiid. Really enjoyed that Sixers game. In case anybody is wondering, Joel Embiid just felt fine and dandy after the game. Here he is talking to the broadcast on NBC Sports Philly.
I'm good. Just glad to be back, especially after what happened. At first, I thought it was going to be really bad. So, I'm just excited to come back, in such a short amount of time.
And he looked great in such a short amount of time. Great to see that from the big man. Doc Rivers talked about how he was impressed with Joel Embiid coming back in that short amount of time, and not just coming back, but playing at the level that he did. And I do give credit, because the people at NBC Sports, they've been doing this for a couple of years now. And I don't know who's in charge of it for this, for Sixers post game. But they have the lower third for Joel Embiid. Check this out. Score team's last 11 points in the win over the Hawks. And then the little added note, there's a reason the crowd chants MVP. Yeah, very much so. Very much so. That's a guy that just did it all for you last night. And that's what he does when he's playing and he's on top of his game. And that's what he was able to do for you against the Hawks. Absolutely great win by the Sixers. George Niang contributed with a big 3 towards the end of the third quarter. And as I mentioned, Tobias Harris will certainly get it done throughout the game as well. And how about this? I have it in my notes here. I forgot about this. Matisse Thybulle with a little – did you see that little thing Matisse Thybulle did last night? Had the ball on the perimeter. Penetrate. You never see Matisse Thybulle do this with the ball in his hands. You'll see him cut to the basket, which I don't mind him doing at all. But he gets the ball, I believe maybe at the three-point line, there's to step in, maybe foul line extended. Dribble drive penetration from Matisse Thybulle, of all people, and a little left-handed scoop layup. Well, all right there, Matisse Thybulle. Way to be, fella. All right, add that to your game, why don't you? So that was great. Nice to see that from Matisse Thybulle. So that's what the Sixers did last night. 104-101 victory over the Atlanta Hawks. And Joel Embiid looking glorious. The Eagles, ladies and gentlemen, have a problem, and then they have some solutions. All right. When the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I remember going into that season talking about John Dornbos, because the Eagles had just traded him. And I remember we were concerned about, like, our big concerns really our biggest concern was a long snapper. And I remember having that argument with people, not necessarily an argument, but just like talking about it, how it was a problem. Like, you had this guy you could trust. He was perfect, but you traded him. Why would you do that? And the Eagles, from what I understand, they're the only team ever to trade a long snapper for a draft pick. The Eagles had a 7th-round draft pick for John Dorenbos. Now, he ended up, the trade ended up saving his life, as many of you know, because they discovered, I believe it was a heart condition for John Dorenbos that had to be taken care of immediately. And it was, fortunately. And John is obviously enjoying his post playing career. But I remember talking about the long snapper, like, oh, this is a problem for the Eagles. They gotta have a long snapper. This could be so difficult for special teams and all that stuff. And I remember thinking in the midst of that conversation that not just I was having, but other people, I was like, if we're talking about the long snapper, that means you got a really good football team. Like, if your biggest concern right now is your long snapper and maybe who your backup quarterback is, even though it was Nick Foles. I know a lot of people didn't exactly feel great about Nick Foles going into that season as your backup quarterback, but that was the situation. And of course, as it ended, everyone felt great about Nick Foles. But I remember thinking, wow, if we're talking about long snappers and backup quarterbacks, I think things are going pretty good. So the thing that really jumps out to me about this Eagles team at 10-1 is the fact that when you're talking about concerns, one of the number one concerns you talk about, not just in the same old with, is Nick Sirianni you're going to run the football enough, or is Jonathan Gannon going to be aggressive enough? No, it's not even that. Your biggest concern overall right now is special teams. Now, is special teams on the level that like long snapper is? No, obviously not. It's a little bit more important, and right, but long snapper has a piece of that. But we're not really worried about Mr. Rick Lovato, are we? So when we talk about that with the Eagles, you can certainly say that they're in good hands. But when you talk about special teams in general, especially punt coverage, especially kickoff coverage, no bueno. It's not going very well for the Eagles when it comes to their special teams. So this has become a huge sticking point for the Eagles this year. And even though they're 10-1, we still talk about Jonathan Gannon and whether or not he's aggressive enough. We still talk about whether or not they're going to run the football enough, especially after a game like this. You better run the football just a little bit. Keep Derrick Henry off the field for that 1 o'clock kickoff Sunday against Titans. Yes, please and thank you. Cool. Of course, A.J. Brown's going to get his. We all know that. But those are all still concerns. But probably the most consistent and the most glaring need of an upgrade is their special teams. Jalen Reagor obviously wasn't it as a return man. Devontae Smith shouldn't be it as a return man. Whether it's Boston Scott, Quez Watkins, whoever it might be. The head coach addressed the media yesterday, and he was asked about what the Eagles are going to do, what his team is going to do to address the needs that are on special teams this year. And it really comes down to stop at nothing. And Zach Berman of The Athletic asked Nick Sirianni about it, as it seems to be, not seems, but is a consistent problem throughout this season. How the Eagles are covering punts, how the Eagles are covering kick returns. And here's what Nick Sirianni had to say about that problem going forward.
We got to do whatever we got to do to get it fixed. So obviously I'm not going to tell you, hey, we're going to be, this guy's going to play here, this guy's going to play here. But obviously everything is discussed, right? Is there a guy that you can call up from practice squad that could help, right? So that's discussed. Is there a guy that can give you a phase or two on special teams? That's a starter. That's discussed. You know, everything is, and I think that's a really good point by you, Zach. And everything is on the table. And I won't tell you, you know, this is what's happening this week, or this is, you know, because we're still in the early phases of what can help. Again, it always starts with myself and putting them in the right position. But then the guys have to go out and execute it, and you know it is, and then it could be shuffling guys around. Like I said, I thought Nakobe played a really good game on special teams, so maybe he takes a different role within the special teams. You know, maybe it is on kickoff, maybe it's on kickoff return, wherever it may be, because he's doing a nice job. It doesn't have to be just the guys that are in there. It can be a shuffle, and everything's on the table to make sure that we're, you know, doing our jobs to make sure that it gets right.
I know a lot of people, when you hear starters and special teams, You get a little nervous. And then I know some other people might look at it and be like, well, Malcolm Jenkins had a great career here in Philadelphia, and he played every snap, including special teams, and he was fine the entire time. Yeah, that's true. But that shouldn't be the norm. I understand don't use a guy like Quez Watkins in kick returns or punt returns. I understand to a point using a guy like Devontae Smith in an emergency break glass type of situation, similar to how the Eagles used Deshaun Jackson later in his career here in Philadelphia. I don't mind that. I like that. That's, again, in case of emergency, break glass types of situations. But this has been going on for all 11 games that the Eagles have had this season. At what point do you fix the problem? At what point do you say, all right, well, I guess I need to roll some starters out there on special teams to make sure guys are making tackles? I get it. It might be time to do that. And Nick Sirianni saying whatever it takes to fix this problem, we're going to fix it. They're going to take it out of their special team coordinator's hands, and they're going to handle it themselves. Because the special teams coordinator is not going to go up to the head coach, or he's not going to go up to Jonathan Gannon, and he's not going to say, hey, can you give me TJ Edwards on this play? Hey, real quick, can you give me Kasira White over here for every single special team snap? Would you mind? I think it's so much. That's not going to happen. What's going to happen is Nick Sirianni, and probably Howie Roseman as well, are going to say, so we're going to go ahead and not just have Nakobe Dean on special teams like he played and like he was just mentioned by his head coach. We're going to go out there. We're going to make sure our starters are going out there, I don't know, to make sure guys are keeping outside contained, make sure guys aren't running up the middle of the field, making sure you're not having big returns against you every single week. And also, how about some decisions of not kicking to guys that are really good returners? Just a thought. Just a thought. Just a thought. Or putting to guys, I should say, that are really good returners. These are just ideas I have. These are just ideas. You know, no big deal. No big deal. Now, the Eagles did just get their 10th win of the season. I mentioned yesterday it's the 5th time in their franchise history that they have improved to 10-1 on a season, which is a great feeling. Afterwards, in the locker room, it was basically open mic night for Nick Sirianni in the Eagles locker room as he was dishing out game balls. Here's how the head coach addressed the team, and here's who got the game balls after their 10th victory of the season.
Offensive line, tight ends, good job. Think about the great quarterback. He set the franchise record of quarterbacks. We got Randall Cunningham, right? We got Michael Vick, right? There's been some great quarterbacks rushing here, and he set that record, so that was awesome. But I want to recognize these two guys, all right? One guy had such a big year for us last year, and then we brought somebody in, we brought AJ in, right? He had to take a little bit of a back seat. But he kept affecting the game, even when he wasn't having the stats that he should have had. In the last 2 or 3 games, he's made big-time plays. And we're going to keep needing him to make big-time plays, and we trust him to make big-time plays. And he accepted his role, he started his role, and then his role changed, and he started in that quest. And the next guy made some big tackles today. Wasn't a starter. Was asked upon to come in and make some plays and made a huge pick.
Get that deal right now!
Guys, it's a great reminder what makes a team go. We're for each other. Star in your role. You never know when it's going to change. And it was awesome to see that. We don't want anyone to get hurt, but it was awesome to see those guys step in and make plays. That's what great teams do, and we're on our way.
I'm not kidding you, and I know often I will play for you guys the locker room speech from either Nick Sirianni or Jalen Hurts or both. That's the best one I have seen. That is the best, most energetic, most, I think, fair locker room speech I have heard from Nick Sirianni and how he addressed this team. And I think it's also the most insightful. I think that gave you the most information about how close-knit this team is in that 2 minutes right there. And normally I don't like to give you a cut that's 2 minutes long. But when you listen to especially the offensive line get a game ball, great. Always should be acknowledged, especially in a game like that where they were just plowing through the defensive line and linebackers, and Jason Kelce was doing his thing. Absolutely incredible. But then to hear Nick Sirianni reference an interception, getting his first career intercept, the place was going bonkers for Reed Blankenship. Stepping in for Charles Gardner-Johnson, Sidney Deuce, as he's affectionately known on this program, to hear the locker room that excited for Reed Blankenship to get a game ball. How about that? In his first significant snaps in the Philadelphia Eagles secondary, he not only picks off Aaron Rodgers, but that, of course, leads to him getting a game ball after the game and his teammates going wild for him. I don't know exactly what was said, but it sounded like somebody, maybe Slay, saying, give him that bleeping ball. It's great. This team, it's got each other's back, and you might think it's hokey. You might think that's high school Harry BS, but it's the farthest thing from it. And when I think back to that Super Bowl team, sure, you could talk about whether or not before the season we were talking about long snappers or we were talking about backup quarterbacks, and, oh, wow, this team might be in a pretty good place. But that team was close-knit. And that team went through all the stuff with the underdog mentality, and everyone was counting us out because one guy fell in Carson Wentz. That team looked at each other, and they said to themselves, guess what? Next man up. We got this. We all we got. We all we need. And this team has a very similar mindset to that. And yeah, sure, Fletcher Cox is still here. Brandon Graham is still here. There's a whole bunch of guys that are still here with this team. Jason Kelsey, Lane Johnson. We can go through the whole roster. There's a bunch of guys. They still have that mentality. We just ran a couple clips a couple weeks ago from Jason Kelsey's underdog event with his new line of apparel. It's still very much a mindset mentality of this team that motivates them to be great. But even beyond the underdog, beyond that is the all we got, we all we need. You look at the injuries that have happened on this team. You look at Jordan Davis going out. Howie Roseman said, okay, we all we got, we all we need. But let me just make a couple of tweaks right here. Because they didn't, we all we got. They didn't have enough to play. And they didn't just get warm bodies to play the defensive line. They got Ndamukong Suh and Linville Joseph. Not too shabby. I'm really amazed by this football team and the way it's coached and the way it's led. And I think it's a very healthy mix of both. And I think it's a direct correlation to how this team is 10-1. One of the things Nick Sirianni talked about yesterday I thought was really amazing. He talked about a good mix of guys. Not every player can go to their coach, as Jalen Hurts has been doing, as Nick Sirianni alluded to in his post-game press conference, and then talked about at length a little bit more yesterday. Jalen Hurts goes up to him during games and kind of talks about what's working for him, what's not working for him. Like they had that open line of communication. And he'll make suggestions to Nick Sirianni. He'll make suggestions to Shane Steichen about what they should be doing. And they'll evaluate it, and they'll make a call. Yesterday, it seemed like that, Sunday night, it looked like that run game was working. And what do you know? They kept him stuck with the run. Jalen Hurts was over there on the sidelines talking about it. It was another good question by our friend Zach Berman, going up to or saying to Nick Sirianni at the press conference yesterday, how specific is it? Is it plays or is it concepts? What is it? It's a little bit of both. To have that open dialogue with your quarterback, it should be something that should be obvious. Not every coach has it. Not every player has it. They don't have that trust. Sometimes it's easy to throw your hands up in the air and just say, I'll just do it myself. And although it might look like that sometimes with Jalen Hurts, like in the fourth quarter against the Colts, or really throughout this game against the Packers, although it might just look like Jalen Hurts is deciding, I got this, don't worry about it. Well, it's still Shane Steichen and Nick Sirianni dialing up those quarterback draws. It's still up to those two to make sure that everybody else is on the same page with the offense and not just Jalen Hurts improvising on every single play. That's a great thing to have, that relationship between player and coach. You certainly see it from these two, definitely on the same page every single game. And really what it seems like every single practice as well. And I think that says a lot between the players and the coach in that relationship. I think it also says a lot between the players and their relationship within themselves. And that goes miles and miles towards success. And I love the fact that Nick Sirianni really closed that up with, this is what great teams do. And we're on our way. He didn't say, and guess what? That's because we're a great team. He didn't say that. He stopped short of that. He said, we're on our way. Because one of the things that I really also enjoy about the way this team thinks is that their best game is still ahead of them. And we've talked about it really for weeks about, have they played the perfect game yet? Have they played that dominant game where they've really taken it to the opponent throughout, for 4 quarters of football? They're still very much in pursuit of that perfect game. When people were talking about the record being, a perfect season, whatever, and that's great. It's a great thing to strive for, and every team should strive because that means every single week you're going out there and you're trying to win. That's goes without saying. But what I like more is they're not in pursuit of the perfect record. They're in pursuit of the perfect game. And you could look at NFL seasons, and obviously you only have one undefeated team from start to finish in the 72 Dolphins. But you could argue it's even more difficult because I guarantee you there are games during that 72 season that the Dolphins were looking at going, yeah, I kind of sailed that pass. Bob Greasy, I think I sailed that pass a little bit. I know we won the game, but if I just got it right on the numbers, then it'd be a perfect game. If you have situations like that, then yeah, it's probably even more difficult to strive for the perfect game than it is for the perfect season. Because even your winning games, you're still making mistakes. And even though the Eagles have only lost 1 game this season, and they're the best team in the NFL, they're still in pursuit of the perfect game. And that doesn't come without the mindset of great leadership on this team. That doesn't come without great leadership and coaching by Nick Sirianni and his staff. That doesn't come without the play that these guys have put forward. And it certainly doesn't come without the team that Howie Roseman assembled from the front office. It's pretty important. Now, I mentioned help could be on the way. It came up yesterday during the press conference that Jordan Davis, Eagles first-round pick defensive tackle, remember him? The man who's a mountain who moves other mountains? Remember him? He could be back Wednesday. Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, Jordan Davis, and Ndamukong Suh, Linval Joseph. Milton Williams. Friend of the show, Milton Williams. Those 6 dudes could be available against Derrick Henry this Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock at Lincoln Financial Field. Okay. Derrick Henry, without question, most accomplished running back in the NFL. Very versatile. The man will throw you a touchdown pass. Why not? Even for Derrick Henry, that's a tough defensive line to try to run through. I can't wait for Sunday at 1. In general, I can't wait for Sundays. But particularly this Sunday, I can't wait to see this matchup. That defensive line against Derrick Henry, yes, please, and thank you. A.J. Brown taking on his former team on his new team's home turf. Dial that one up for me. It's going to be a hell of a game. I know the Eagles and the Titans don't have any kind of great rivalry or anything like that, but man, this game going to feel like a rivalry. This game going to be edge of your seat stuff, and I can't wait for it. Coming up Sunday at 1 o'clock. That's help right there with Jordan Davis possibly coming back. Jimmy Kempski then took it a step further. I saw he was responding to somebody on Twitter, friend of the show, Jimmy Kempski. Avonte Maddox could be back next week. Dallas Goedert, people pop the week after that. Okay. So let's see. You get your tight end back. You get your slot corner back, and you get Jordan Davis back, all in like successive weeks. Might as well just be more acquisitions for this Eagles team to get even better. This 10-1 Eagles team to get even better. Fantastic. Let me tell you about my man Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right here in Philadelphia. The man with the perfect price. Other people like to say, other people like to say, I hate Steven Singer. Well, you know who those other people are? There are other jewelers that mark things way up just to mark them down a couple of bucks in front of you, make you feel like you got a hell of a negotiator there. Great job. Well, Steven Singer Jewelers, you don't got to worry about negotiating. You don't got to worry about haggling. You don't got to worry about that pressure. All you got to worry about is what beautiful diamond you want to buy. And Steven Singer will sit you down with a real jewelry expert and treat you like family at the other corner of 8th and Walnut. As he's not gouging you left and right, he sets it at the perfect price each and every time. He's the only jeweler to guarantee the perfect price each and every day. Online at IHateStevenSinger.com. Always fast and free shipping at IHateStevenSinger.com. Let me tell you about the amazing people at Manscaped. Ladies and gentlemen, fellas, you want to look good everywhere, right? That's where Manscaped enters the conversation, including their incredible Platinum Package 4.0, which is their best bundle yet. Looking for gifts for the holidays? Look no further, ladies, for the man in your life than Manscaped at manscaped.com. Use promo code Farzy for 20% off and free shipping. And you know what the Platinum Package 4.0, you know what that includes? It includes the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer. It includes the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer. And they come with skin-safe technology that helps reduce the risk of nicks so you can manscape with confidence and comfort. So make sure you sit back, relax, dial up manscaped.com and order Manscaped products from manscaped.com and use promo code Farzy. That's promo code Farzy and manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping. How about Freestone Farm CBD? FreestoneFarmCBD.com. I'm sure you've tried a lot of different brands of CBD. Maybe you're looking to try CBD in general. Well, look no further than Freestone Farm CBD. Absolutely incredible. You'll love their insane tropical tasting Bayox that clocks in at a chart-topping 24.1%, and Super CBD, which is half Hindu, Kush, and 21%. Genetics of these guys, they're off the charts. They grow all their premium hemp flower in the Garden State as well, with no organic inputs or with all organic inputs and IPM. There's absolutely nothing synthetic from farm to jar. And after harvest, they carefully preserve all plant compounds with a perfect 3-month cure. Just one look or smell will let you know it's CBD done right. So make sure you take a more natural approach to everything you put in your body. And if you're one of those people that always takes a more natural approach to everything you put in your body, look no further than Freestone Farm CBD at FreestoneFarmCBD.com. Use promo code Farzy for 20% off at Freestone Farm CBD, FreestoneFarmCBD.com. How about the amazing people at Mojo? Download the Mojo app to your phone right now. Available in New Jersey is the Mojo app. You'll absolutely love this. Each player in the NFL, over 300 skilled positions in the NFL, quarterbacks, wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, all right there on Mojo. Each player has a share price attached to them. Essentially, every player is a stock. Rise and fall as the season goes on, even in the offseason. Anything that could affect their on-field play affects their share price. Each player is a stock. That's the way you think of it. Right now, Miles Sanders might not be the best guy to buy. Stock's pretty high right now. Jalen Hurts, stock's pretty high right now. Might want to look elsewhere. Buy low. Think there's a rookie about to break out? Buy low, sell high. Make yourself some money right there. It's just like playing the stock market right there. So make sure you are in New Jersey. It's available in New Jersey, available on iOS. Just by downloading the app, you'll have a chance to win up to $10,000 in free shares of player stock. Click the link in the description, and for a chance to win up to $10,000 in free shares of player stock, must be 21 or older and physically located in New Jersey to trade on Mojo. Have a gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. How about PHL Sports Station, Philadelphia Sports Station, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs? That's PHLSportsStation.com. Let's get into the chat check. Before the chat check, I just want to get this off my chest because I've been thinking about it. So, as I told some people, the people that joined us for the Farzy show party, right, you guys, they already heard this, but here you go. It looks like there's a pretty good chance my family and I, we're staying in the Philadelphia area, are making the move to the burbs. All right. 2 kids, row home in Philly. I know it doesn't sound terrible, but a little bit more space be nice, right? Enjoy the spoils, right? We have looked at a place that's about 20 feet from the city border, which is about as far from the city as I'm willing to move. So we're in the process of like getting the house ready and painting and all that stuff to list and all that fun stuff. So here's the deal. If you guys have any pro tips on moving other than don't move, I'd love to hear them, because we moved a lot when I was a kid and I hated it and it brings back horrible memories. So let me just ask you this. Pro tips for moving, packing, painting, anything. We're doing it all ourselves. We'll have other people move us, but essentially we have to move out of our current house to sell the current. I mean, we'll still be living here, but just metaphorically speaking, we have to Like our realtor came over and he was like, okay, just make it look like you don't have kids. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? If you want to stage your house for someone to buy, just make it look like you don't have kids. But I have 2 of them. That's kind of difficult. And what you're saying sounds kind of illegal. But anyway, any pro tips you guys have for moving? I'd love to know them. I'd love to know. Today I got to move my workout bench. So I can't be pumping the iron like I normally do. But that's going to be a pain in the ass. I don't want to do that. I got to paint today. I don't want to do that. That sucks. But I got to get it done. Got to get it done. So any pro tips on moving? Please, by all means, before the chat check, I'd love to hear. Now let's jump into the chat check, see how you wonderful people are doing. Oh, and the Farzy show will not be affected by the move. All right. It's literally just moving to a new house. Still very much in the area. Pro tips are very much accepted. April. What's going on, April? Kevin. Good morning, Kevin. Nice to see you. Thanks for hitting me up last night on the old Twitterverse. Appreciate you. Sean Gillespie, morning to everybody. That's nice. Thanksgiving hangover lasts so long. Whoa, PJ. Still. God bless you, man. Have one of them liquid IVs. If you haven't had a liquid IV, they are delicious. Jim's losing his touch. It's all the damn adulting. It's the worst. Oh, during the holidays? Yeah, that sounds terrible. See, here's the deal. I'll say this about holidays, about when I get together with my friends. And you guys know this because I went up to Skinny Atlas at the beginning of the football season for a couple days with some friends. Here's my theory. And I've proven this theory right many times. And I can only speak for myself. But I believe if I can do it, you can do it. I can still drink as much as I did in college. I probably drink heavier now because in college I was a beer drinker and now I'm a whiskey drinker. So I'm a little bit more aggressive. All right. I'm a little bit more aggressive. But I'll say this. I can still drink as much maybe more and harder liquor now as an old man. I can do, but the difference is, and then feel fine the next day. Just like I did in college, as long as I have the recovery period. Now, people say, oh, it takes longer to bounce back. I only think it takes longer to bounce back simply because you have so many other adulting responsibilities, as April has just pointed out. If I'm away, I'm on vacation, I'm having a great time, whatever, I got friends and family, whatever. If that's the case and I got time to sleep in the next day and then crush my everything bagel with scrapple, egg, and cheese, I feel fantastic. And a tall OJ, oh, I feel fantastic. Maybe throw in a fountain soda, just to feel saucy. Oh, baby, I can still party just like I used to as long as I have that recovery period. Now, no recovery period, that's terrible. On the off night, like the maybe once or twice, maybe a year, where you go out and maybe your wife or your husband or your significant other has the kids and you have a work event and you go out and you get toasted and then you come back the next day and you got an adult. Oh, no, that is, wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Would not wish that on my worst enemy. Maybe 2 enemies, but I wouldn't for the most part wish it on anybody. Hungover parenting? Oh, no, sir. No. That's evil. That is evil. But test my theory. As long as you have the recovery time, I feel like I bounce back just like I used to. No recovery time and have to adult? Ooh, that's terrible. That's the worst thing ever. And that's my public service announcement for today's show. So no adulting. Sean, I'm with you right there. Special teams coach is by no way special. Okay, there you go. Mike Clay, yes, the special teams coordinator. Sirianni, oh yeah, Sirianni. I listen to Sirianni. I'm ready to take on anybody. Sean, the guy's got that motivating factor. April, that line is ridiculous. Think about that for a second. Now, here's my argument, and I said this a little bit yesterday, but I want to get into it a little bit more. Here's my argument. You went and got Ndamukong Suh, and you went and got Linval Joseph for Sunday night's game against the Packers. And you have to think about the way Jonathan Gannon likes to play. Jonathan Gannon likes to play with his defensive backs back, off the line of scrimmage, off the receivers. He doesn't like to play up front aggressive press coverage. He does not like that. So when you play against Aaron Rodgers, you have to have your defensive backs back. So you then have to rely more on your defensive line winning their one-on-one battles because they ain't getting help. That's why you got Linval Joseph. That's why you got Ndamukong Suh. Now you might look at this Derrick Henry game, this Tennessee Titans game, and go, oh, well, this is why you got to look at the run game. You got to stop. Yeah, but you're not going to get beat over the head by Ryan Tannehill. Oh, but the Packers stopped Derrick Henry for the most part. They kept him under 4 yards per carry. Yeah, but he also ran the ball 28 times. And you're not as good a football team as the Eagles, if you're the Packers. So you're going to lose to the Titans. If you exhaust all your resources to try to stop the run, yes, Tannehill's a good enough quarterback to beat you when you're a bad football team. He's not a good enough quarterback to beat this team over the top. Eagles with their defensive line and their secondary with or without Gardner Johnson, who, by the way, Charles Gardner Johnson, who, by the way, Nick Sirianni did not really offer an update on, still evaluating. IR, they're not there yet. That's what he had to say for the injury to CD Deuce. So we'll see how that one plays out. But even with, I believe, Reed Blankenship and these corners and this defensive line, and by the way, the linebackers, the way they've been playing, they're going to be just fine and dandy going up against this Titan team. And I'm pretty confident in the Eagles coming away with a victory in this game. But yes, when you do look at Fletch, Hargrave, Davis, you look at what Joseph brings to the table and Sue brings to the table, that's a stacked defensive line. And if the Eagles get creative with that defensive line, that can be even more special than just the names on the paper. And they've been putting up a lot. They've been putting up a lot of great numbers this season. And now you're adding talent and you're bringing back Jordan Davis. Good things will happen. Oh, April, here we go. In terms of moving, label everything. And if anything has a space in it, but if anything has a space in it, put something in it, pause. But trash bags over clothes. Oh, put trash bags over clothes so you can just keep them. Oh, on the hangers. I like that. Oh, wow. April, military brat here. Okay. No, that's good advice right there. Yeah, no, that's great. I think we're gonna. When you said trash bags, it's crazy because normally when you move, you want to go through stuff and get rid of stuff. This feels like we don't even have time to do that. That's what it feels like, unfortunately. So it might just be like a whole pile of clothes thrown in a trash bag and then just taken elsewhere. So that's what I got for you right there. But thank you, April. Appreciate that. Thanks, everybody in the chat. You guys are great. Let's move into the Morning Rush, brought to you by Sky Motorcars, SkyMotorcars.com. Joel Embiid, second game tomorrow night. They tip off at the Cleveland Cavaliers. 7 o'clock tip-off for the 76ers. Look forward to seeing that one. Flyers tonight. Islanders, 7:30 puck drop. Flyers have made it a magic 10 in a row. That's where we were at yesterday, right? I just want to make sure I just want to double check. I meant to double check before the show. I ended up watching the highlights of the Sixers again, just because I wanted to watch Embiid look glorious. But it is not been a strong showing for the Flyers as of late. Still stuck on 7 wins. I remember they were 7-3-2 not that long ago. And now it's a totally different story. As yes, they have lost 10 in a row. They'll try to avoid a 11th straight loss tonight. As of right now, there are only 4 teams in the NHL with fewer points than the Flyers 19. 5 teams, than the Flyers 19. So if you're going to lose, if you're a tank, let's be a little bit better at it. The only difference is I don't think John Tortorella is here to tank. I don't think he took the gig to tank. So Flyers will at least try to snap a 10-game losing streak tonight against the Islanders. Islanders, by the way, are 15-8-0 on the season. They got 30 points to the Flyers 19. So there you go. Swinging back to the Sixers. Here's what I want to see against the Cavs. Coming up tomorrow night, we'll get a little bit more into it on tomorrow's program. But really, it comes down to conditioning. And one of the things that really impressed me with yesterday's game with Joel Embiid that I didn't mention in the open, but I wanted to make sure I tip my cap to it here, is the conditioning for Joel Embiid in this game. He got stronger as the game went on. You can make the argument that they spelled him some minutes. They gave him longer breaks than normal, which is fine. That's actually a smart move by Duck Rivers, if you will. But what I really liked about this game is that in the fourth quarter, he seemed to be at his strongest. Now, just looking at the stat sheet from Joel Embiid and what he was able to bring to the table as far as minutes in this particular game, you don't notice a huge discrepancy. He got 35 minutes in this game on the floor. That's great to me. And the term for me at least, the term minutes restriction has been balled up and thrown out the window when it comes to Joel Embiid. It's no longer applied. And last night, when I saw him out there, I noticed that he wasn't really playing less, but when he was taken out, the breaks seemed to be longer. In that fourth quarter, for instance, they checked back into the game around the 6-minute mark, and that's when he absolutely took over and scored those last 11 points for the Sixers. And that's where you saw defense really stepping up for him in the final 5 minutes, 6 minutes of that fourth quarter. You saw him be more aggressive in terms of going to the basket. And that was another thing. This wasn't just Joel Embiid coming back and in his 31st, 32nd, 33rd, 34th, 35th minute, it wasn't him standing at the three-point line with his hands on his knees, sucking wind and going, oh, okay, give me the ball. Okay, shoot, miss, and then lollygag down the other end because he had no energy. This was power. And that's why I think that play with 56 seconds left, and I mentioned it a couple of times in the open, that's why I think that play where he went bully ball on Capella with 56 seconds left was so important. Not just the fact that he took over in the final couple minutes of this game, but the fact that he was able to play the way he did at the end of the game. It wasn't like he hit 2 threes and we all celebrated that, oh, our big man's hitting threes again. This is great. It wasn't that at all. It was the style of basketball he brought that showed you he had more left in the tank after missing a couple of games. And we've seen him look like a totally different player after missing a couple of games. In the playoffs last year, he looked like a different player when he came back from his broken face. But he fought back, and he played great. But when you look at this game, he missed a couple of games, came back, did not look like he missed a beat. It was great to see him look stronger as the game went on. And anytime you're in a closeout situation where you need your number one guy, your MVP candidate, to step up and take control of the game, and he actually does it, that's a huge feather in his cap. Anytime you're in crunch time, you want that guy to step up, and Joel Embiid certainly did last night. And by the way, I mean, I know they had that terrible playoff series. Well, it wasn't playoff. I mean, it was a 7-game series. But, man, the Hawks are just that team now. I just love to hate Trae Young. I love to hate Clint Capella. I like to hate John Collins. I don't like any of them. That series has forever put a bad taste in my mouth. Even beyond Ben Simmons. Even beyond it. Sure, it brings back the memories, but I just don't like that team. There's just a bunch of guys I don't like. Now, if a couple of them were on a team, I'd like them. But I'm saying, I respect them, but that doesn't mean I have to like them. So Sixers were able to get that win over the Hawks. They're back at it tomorrow night against the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's the show, everybody. I feel like I'm missing one. One more thing for the morning rush. I'm not the biggest soccer fan in the world. Give all the credit in the world to the Union. Big fan of Jim Curtin. Everything he's done with that program. It was a tough loss taking the championship game. We all know that. World Cup I usually really get into. The Euro, you guys know I really get into. I pull for Italy and the U.S. Italy hasn't been in the last 2 World Cups now, despite winning a Euro. How does that happen? Anyway, Italy plays Iran today. Or, as one reporter so boldly called out during a press conference yesterday, 2 days ago, it's Iran, not Iran. As someone who's done his fair share of traveling, yes, we get an easy label of ugly Americans. However, I just like to say to that one reporter, people around the world have accents. And in America, our accent tends to go towards Iran more than Iran. The reporter browbeat, basically, a U.S. soccer player yesterday when trying to ask a question about diversity. Started off with, let's just be clear on this, it's Iran, not Iran. And the player was the player was great. He was very apologetic. And see, this shows what a novice football fan I am, what a novice soccer fan I am. I don't even know the player's name. I'll be watching the game today at 2:00, though, because the Americans need to win in order to advance. He took the question in stride and it was apologetic for not pronouncing it correct. But like, I remember even Mark Zumoff when he was doing the Australian game, the Sixers Australian exhibition, 2 years ago? He was saying Melbourne, Australia. And Australians were like, it's Melbourne. It's pronounced Melbourne. And it's like, and Mark did it because he's a nice guy. But in like my head, our American way of pronouncing things isn't the same way. We do have an accent here. And I feel like there should be a little bit more leeway when speaking. It's one of those things, and this actually annoys me. It's like when people like myself who don't speak Italian start pronouncing things in like wildly outrageous Italian accents. Like instead of saying like, can you pass Parmesan cheese? It's like, can you pass it the Parmigiano? And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Like, it's just one of those things. It's like, we don't have that accent. It's just one thing that pissed me off because I felt like it was an unnecessary call out of a quote unquote ugly American BS. And I actually watched it a couple of times and I actually found myself being pissed off by it because you have this American team that's doing a great job representing the United States. And then some reporter has to get on a high horse about how they pronounce the name of their country. It's called an accent. Everybody's got them. So I'll end up by saying, and Miss Scusi, and let's go USA. Beat Iran. All right, enjoy the World Cup today. Enjoy the Flyers, hopefully snapping their 10-game losing streak tonight. Hopefully that happens, and we get some more good news surrounding the Philadelphia Eagles and who they're going to get off IR in the not-too-distant future. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is the Farzy Show, presented by Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. Jim Hyde produced the program. Did a wonderful job. This is a Buzz Sports Entertainment production. My name is Mark Farzy. Have a great day, everybody. Take it easy.